Hello everyone, Azari here, also known as Numinous Bloom, and today I'm really excited to be sharing with you a bit about my journey with Kundalini energy, which began about 12 years ago now. And the reason why I want to share this story is because I think that many people experience it in the world, and it seems to be kind of quickening. More and more people are experiencing it. So I want to normalize the process in a way. It's a process of transformation, and it can be so rewarding, but also deeply challenging. So I want to offer my support to those who are on the journey, those who are curious, and let you know that you're not alone in this wild process, and share a bit about my story, what I've experienced through working with Kundalini energy, and and to also claim my authentic expression and my own story and my truth. This is a bit of an experiment in doing that for me too. So thanks for joining me for this ride. So where do we begin? Kundalini, 12 years ago. Where was I 12 years ago? Oh my gosh. I had just come back from Berlin. I'd been living there for a year. I was heartbroken. I had just left. It was quite a toxic relationship. I was depressed. I was very full of fear and anxiety. I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror. I really hated myself. I would see like a photo that was taken of me and I would just pick it apart about all of the terrible things that I saw within myself. And you could say I was a mess. I was like using a lot of drugs and alcohol to numb the pain and trauma that I'd experienced in my teenage years that I hadn't faced yet or even knew was really there. I was also self-harming. The emotions that I was experiencing were so challenging that I felt that there was nothing else to do but to hurt myself. So that's where I was at, and I moved back to my mum's place in a small country town in Australia, and I thought I really yearned for there to be something more to life. I really thought, man, this sucks. Isn't there something more? Isn't there something better? How can I get to that? Something had to change, and it was me. And I was drawn to spirituality. I was drawn to self-help books, and these books, they promise for transformation. They promise that, and they have the tools in there. Many of them actually do. And it works. One of the books that I first picked up, I was really drawn to, was Kundalini Rising by Gurmukh Khalsa. Yes, I hope I pronounced that right. That book it's full of stories of people who had gone on this journey of transformation through Kundalini. And I was just deeply fascinated and curious by all of these stories. And I thought, wow, could this happen to me? Could I be on this journey? And little did I know it had already begun. I jumped on a bus one day, and it was the thick of my like hippie years for sure, and I jumped on a bus. I didn't have any shoes on, and this guy, I sat next to him, and he said, earthbound, hey, looking at my feet. And I said, yeah, I guess so. And and then he asked me about the book that I was reading, and I was like, yeah, I don't know about this book, I'm not sure. And he looked at me in my eyes and he said, well, you wouldn't have picked it up if it hadn't begun. And then he just got off the bus, and I was like, wow. So I was 22 at that time. And so I was deeply fascinated by people's stories. What else happened? Then I moved to Sydney, and I began studying visual arts, and I hadn't started any practice really. I dipped my toes into meditation a little bit, but I did not have a solid practice at all. But I began having these kind of out of the ordinary experiences. One of them was kind of like tingling sensations in my body in different places, and I didn't really have much understanding of what that was. And yeah, and then I started seeing like glowing light around people's, kind of like around the tops of their heads, and I would see it like around trees, and I would spend my uni classes kind of like sitting up the back just looking at everyone's energy. And yeah, I did a bit of research on it. So I started learning about the chakras, learning about auras, and really deep diving and searching into like everything. I really became a seeker, and I was hungry for information, hungry for knowledge, and something to explain what I was starting to experience. And during this time, I was road tripping with some friends, and we had kind of pulled over near this river and went for a swim. And then there was like a tree that had fallen down in the forest, and some, like, it was making way for lots of sunlight to come through. And I just thought, I'm just gonna lay down here. And I just laid there, and after a while I felt like I just became completely a part of the forest. Like, I just felt like I was that fallen log on the bottom of the forest floor. And it was just such a deep stillness of no thought, nothing. And I just felt completely a part of everything. A friend called me, and she said, hey, I found a Kundalini yoga studio. We should go. And I thought, wow, let's do it. And we went to our first class. It was amazing. I was totally hooked. And I think what I was really drawn to was that it gave me a natural high. It made me feel so alive and so present in my body, connected to my body. And yeah, I was completely hooked. I was absolutely exhausted after the class. For the first couple of weeks, I would have to just like sleep. Both my friend and I think I just was beginning to process a lot, adjust my nervous system, and I really had to sleep it off. But I started to, that event, I started to build up my capacity to do the yoga, and I started to do a few more classes, and I just loved everything about it. I started to reclaim my voice as well. There's a lot of singing, and that I really loved singing, and I felt like a lot of release and block in my throat starting to move. And what else happened? Yeah, I was coming from a place where I lied a lot. I felt like I didn't know how to be honest, and being honest and truth didn't feel safe to me. But doing the Kundalini yoga practices, I started to feel like I couldn't lie anymore. Like I just had to be honest. I had to share my truth. And one of the ways which I was being really dishonest to myself and others was faking orgasms. I did this all the time. I completely was denying myself my own pleasure and the truth of my own desire. And I was also not allowing true, intimate, authentic expression with my lovers, with my partners. So I couldn't lie about this anymore. I had to fess up, to be self-responsible, to own my own behavior and be honest with my partner at the time. And oh my gosh, what a gift that he gave me was that he completely received my truth in with grace, with compassion and understanding. Woo! Shout out, you know who you are. Big thank you so much for that. That really, it flicked the switch for me, because it taught me that it was safe to express my truth. I started experiencing a lot of emotional releases through the Kundalini yoga, beautiful states of bliss where I felt like all of my whole body was just like tingling and my cells were dancing and alive. I started creating art about what I was experiencing within my body. Like the surrealists, surreal is like realer than real, you know, because they started to address not just what we could see, but what we were experiencing within the mind. And so I started to explore not just what we could see or what was happening in the mind, but what we could really feel in our bodies. So I tried to visually capture the energetic experience of prana moving through the body, of my cells being alive. Also, during this time, I really became interested in sound and and cymatics, so the study of visual sound vibration, what sound vibration looks like, and it looks like mandalas and sacred geometry. And yeah, check out cymatics. I feel like I'm going a little bit off tangent here. Yeah, I'm gonna have a little sip of my tea. But there was a lot happening. Also, like strange like phenomena with lights. Like I thought, I lived in an old house at the time. The lamps and lights in my room would always be flickering and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's a bit weird, but it's an old house, whatever. When I would go to uni and the studio where I'd paint started flickering as well. And then the florist that I worked at, the lights would start flickering there. And then once I was in my class and my teacher went to turn the lights off, we were going to watch a projection, blah, 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 blah. And she went, oh, that's weird. That light won't turn off. And I looked up and it was the light above me. It's just this strange phenomena. And since researching Kundalini so much more, I found that this is something that can happen when we're bringing more energy into our bodies and charging up our electromagnetic field. It starts to sometimes engage with the electronics around us. So fascinating and deeply mysterious is this journey. So I was at the studio one day practicing, and one of the teachers said to me, when are you going to do your teacher training? And I thought, oh gosh, I never really thought of myself as a teacher, but deepening my knowledge of the process and the practice, I was 100% keen for that. So I went for it, and in 2015 I finished my Bachelor of Visual Art, and I also started my Kundalini yoga teacher training, which was absolutely incredible, a deeply transformational process. I learned so much. I felt like it was everything that I really wanted to learn about. All of the yogic philosophy, learning about the physical anatomy, the energetic anatomy, the subtle body. One thing that we didn't really learn about was what Kundalini actually does. It was very foundational and more on how to cultivate and prepare our system for the Kundalini process. But I definitely got so much out of that, and I'm so grateful for my teachers. So then I started teaching Kundalini yoga, sharing something that I was so passionate about. I met my beautiful soul sister, Hayley Melrose. She's a Kundalini dance facilitator. When I met her, she said, "You're a Kundi sister too, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And we have been collaborating together for nearly 10 years. And it's been epic to work with her. I went to my first Kundalini dance class and I witnessed this liberated movement. Everyone was breathing and dancing together and sighing and making sounds. And I thought, oh my gosh, I had been doing this in my bedroom for years. Since I was a kid. I would make mixtapes. I grew up in the 90s, and play my favorite tracks, and I would just dance. And I didn't realize, but I was intuitively processing my emotions. I did it a lot when I was a teenager. It really, honestly, helped me to stay alive. And to process a lot of the trauma and the hardcore emotions that I was experiencing. So when I found the Kundalini dance community, I felt at home with this practice. But whilst I was teaching Kundalini yoga, there was something about it that didn't resonate with me. I really didn't connect with Yogi Bhajan a lot. So he's the guy that brought Kundalini yoga to the West. I don't know, something just felt a little bit off about this guy. I never wanted to do the meditations where you had to look into his eyes or bow down to this book that I didn't know what it was about. And there were parts of it that, as I got deeper into the Kundalini yoga community, I felt like, ooh, this is getting a little bit culty, sometimes a bit dogmatic, and I don't really get down with the guru worship stuff. So that was challenging for me because the yoga meant so much to me. It was transformational and I knew that it worked, but there were parts of it that didn't resonate. So it has been a really challenging battle. It didn't come as much of a surprise to me that a few years later, all of this sexual abuse kind of scandals and stuff came out about Yogi Bhajan. So yeah, it has been challenging to come to the place where I am now, in that I know that the yoga works. I practice the yoga, I teach the yoga, but there's elements of Kundalini yoga that I'm happy to leave behind, because it can be culty, it can be dogmatic, and Yoga Bhajan is one questionable dude. So that's where I'm at. I feel firm and grounded in owning that and claiming that, is where I'm at with Kundalini yoga. Yeah, so where did I end up in the journey? But I'm grateful for that in a way, because that let me kind of put down Kundalini yoga and step away from it. And during that time, I was starting to learn, well, how do I work with this life force energy for myself? And I started to learn, kind of go inward to trust and receive guidance from Kundalini itself. And around that time, a friend of mine said, hey, I've heard of this wild thing called Kundalini activation. You should come along. So I was living in a very explorative household at that time, and we all went along. There was about 8 of us or something, and we all went along, and it was incredible. It was run by a beautiful woman, Sigrid. She did a brief explanation, and there was a demonstration, and she was kind of like moving her hands around these people's bodies, and they started to, like, their spine started like rolling, and they started like moaning and breathing, and yeah, it was amazing. And then they dimmed the lights, everyone lay down on their mats, and she and another facilitator kind of walked around the room, and I felt in my body, like, my spine started like rolling, and we were guided to surrender and trust in the process. And I'd already kind of like built a foundation working with Kundalini, but I'd never worked with it in this way. This was total surrender. I can't really remember what happened in that exact session, because we went there for every Wednesday for 2 years. We went there and did this practice, and my body would contort, and I would go into these spontaneous yoga poses. My hands would go into different mudras, and I would make different sounds and howl and cry, and I processed like trauma from when I was a child, when I was a baby. I would be crying, and then kind of have like a little vision of what I was processing. Sometimes, not always. I had like past life kind of journeys of lots of different stuff, and healing lifetimes in that process. And yeah, it began to happen outside of the class as well, and so I would just make time and space to allow Kundalini to just move through me. And yeah, I noticed that I became a lot more non-reactive, so I had space in a moment to choose how I wanted to react to the situation. I became a lot more neutral, like my mind was just centered in neutrality. A lot more spaciousness. Sometimes I would go in there and just experience stillness or bliss, where I would just like laugh ecstatically. And one particular time I was in my bedroom just allowing the process to move through me. I started making these different sounds, and this like language came through me, and I thought at first my initial reaction was fear, because it felt like, or sounded like, speaking in tongues, and my only reference point for that was kind of like demonic. I guess that comes from like Christian something. I don't know much about that, but that was my only like reference point. It was like speaking in tongues, and it scared me for a moment, but I felt this intuitive feeling like to trust and to lean into it, and that it was safe, and it was that I could do that and go there. And I thought, okay. And I went for it, and it was so rewarding. It was so beautiful. It was like this unconditional love was pouring out of me, and it was so gushy and yummy, and I later did some research that other people were experiencing this and called it light language or soul language. And other dialects have since come through. There's this really fierce one that comes through, this Kali energy. And I know when that energy comes through, it really means business. Like, she cuts through illusion, really really helps me to process some bullshit, and I love that. Yeah, my friends and I, we realized that we could, we'd been working with the energy for so long that we could activate each other, and so we would put some music on at our house and just like help each other process, help each other move through this energy and working with the energy together. And it was a really special time. I'm so grateful for the openness of my beautiful friends, you know who you are, that we dove into this rabbit hole together. Also, through the end of that process, I feel like the neutrality, the empowerment that it gave me, and the self-love. Like, I really used to hate myself so much. I couldn't stand looking in the mirror. And I started to love myself. I started to look in the mirror and catch myself and say, hey, you're beautiful. You look beautiful today. And that felt so good. I feel like I'm going to cry a little bit because I just, to have that from where I've been, how much self-loathing, how much self-hatred I had, to be in this place where I can say that I love myself. There are parts of myself that I'm still learning to love, but I can hold them in closer now, and that is such a gift. I'm so grateful for that. Woo! Yes. Okay, so that is like a bit of a short summary of a 12-year journey working with Kundalini. Where am I at now with it? It's 2024. My personal practice looks like a combination of Kundalini yoga, of Kundalini dance, and also like complete surrender to the energy, that life force energy that wants to move through me. I listen to it in how I show up in the world and what I want to create. I infuse it into my music, into, like, there's been times where I've gone places and received songs. You know, I have this song called The Water Blessing, which is I was surrendering to the energy at the beach, and I felt like just intuitively guided to go into the ocean, which was kind of dirty. And there was a bit of rubbish and debris in the ocean. And the ocean gifted me this song to sing to it, and also to sing to the water within me. So I work with it in that way. And now I feel at this time really called to support others on their Kundalini journey. I'm still on the journey and I've learnt a lot, but it is still deeply mysterious to me. I'm still learning so much, but I think that I can now fully support people on their own journey. And if I can't, if there's places where I don't have the answers, I hope that I can support and point you toward the place to others that might have that missing piece of information. I want to share about it. I want to talk about it. I want to normalize it, and support others on the journey. I had the absolute gift of having a group of people who were on the journey with me. And I know many people spontaneously activate or activate in ways where they weren't necessarily trying to make it happen. And at the beginning, that's what was happening to me too. So I offer my support and my guidance because I know that journey can be challenging as we let go of these parts of ourselves we once thought we were. We can end up in a bit of a limbo state as we kind of rebirth, and as our true nature and our potential and our self-sovereignty kind of get revealed and claimed. I hope this journey supported you, reached you. I want you to know that you're not alone, or inspired you. And if you feel called to work with me, I offer Kundalini 101. So this is an in-person and online workshop. So I'm in the Blue Mountains in Australia if you want to work with me in person. I also offer online workshops if you're around the world. Let's get global. Also, I offer visual activation. So this is my artwork that is infused with my life force energy. I put light codes in there. My partner and I also run sound healing events. So we do that in person in the Blue Mountains. And yeah, so far that's what I have to offer at the moment. I'm also writing a Kundalini 101 ebook, which you can download and have a listen to. I'm going to do like a reading version of that. I'm a mom as well, so I know that I don't read as many books. Listening to it is much better. So yeah, also if you want to collaborate or work with me, yeah, I'm here. Get in contact. Numinous Bloom, Azari, I'm here, and I look forward to connecting with you. Much love from my heart to yours. Blessings, beautiful people.